sometimes it's not easy to talk with people that we feel tension or conflict with. And sometimes when we have conflict with another person, we would rather go to a third person and talk to them about it. And we love that feeling of saying, have you heard? Can you believe? And that's because triangles are always easier to set up, but very difficult to operate by. We'd like to welcome you to this live today when we're talking about triangles.
I want to share some interesting facts about triangling with you today. Sharing gossip about another person can create a triangle. Not all threesomes are triangles. I just had an issue with that threesome. But
Okay.
sometimes when we try to get out of a triangle, the others may make you feel guilty. There are three types of triangles: relationship triangle, rescue triangle, and drama triangle.
Drama triangle.
What is a drama triangle?
I'm sure we'll unpack that one today. Triangles contribute significantly to the development of clinical problems such as depression or physical illness. So those are our 5 facts for today.
All right.
Wow. Well, I'm going to go on a coughing jag here as I share with you a case study, it's called. And this is about Sam and Helga.
Sam
and Helga. And they've been married for 2 years, and Helga is furious because she says that Sam's mother has become such a problem. Now we hear about
the in-laws.
in-laws.
Yes.
Okay, so let's listen to this. Sam explains it this way. Helga is really upset because Mom brings over supper for us almost every evening, even though Helga wants to cook dinner. She shows up with everything hot and ready to eat, and we've let her know that now that we're married and on our own, my wife will be the cook in our home. But she's in a bad marriage, and I guess she's glad to get out of the house, and she keeps showing up. The Bible tells us to honor our parents. There it is. So I just thank her and tell her not to worry when Helga gets mad.
Oh, so
Helga,
this is Sam, yeah.
Yes. So Helga angrily adds, I have told her that if Sam doesn't get his, I can't read this. I have told Sam that if he doesn't get his mother to stop coming over here every night, I'm moving out.
Ooh. So it has reached.
It's gotten to be
High proportions.
cataclysmic.
Yeah. Now let me get this straight. His mother is cooking every night or once a week?
Every night,
Every
and
night.
bringing supper over, and she's staying for supper.
I say sit back and enjoy it.
Well, it sounds great, but when you're
No,
a
I
bride,
know,
you want to,
I
you know, it's your kitchen, you want to cook.
That's right.
And it's a little bit different. At least in this culture, it's different.
Sure.
So I take it they live close to each other then?
Apparently
Yes.
so.
So
Probably
they're
a little too close, according to Helga.
So our
Yes.
topic today is triangles. So what is the triangle here?
Well, it sounds pretty clear. It's Helga,
Sam.
Sam, and,
And
Mom.
Okay. But,
And Mom, the couple, and her husband. There's
yes,
two,
the two triangles.
interlocking triangles there.
So it sounds like Helga is mad at her in-law, mother-in-law, but she wants Sam to resolve it, which is we can kind of understand.
Sam, right.
Because it is, after all, Sam's
Mother.
mother.
That's right. That's right.
But that's
Okay,
that's
show's
really,
over.
But that's not always fair, because if she wants a relationship with the mother, she needs to also give feedback. It's not just Sam's responsibility. Now Sam, I would think, would take some responsibility for that.
Well, and the mother-in-law may not even know that she's doing anything that's frustrating.
We
You know,
don't-
she may be acting in innocence.
Yeah, we don't know the cultural
That's- yeah.
background too, because a lot of moms would think, oh, how lucky can you be to
To have
get
someone
food every night.
That's right. And they're not paying for the food.
I need to find out. I
That's
need to
right.
find out Mom's number.
That's right. 'Cause
Yeah,
I would love if she
Whose
could come
mother
over.
is that?
Yeah.
Okay, well let's talk about what a triangle is, and then we can proceed with the case. So we've got a slide here for you. And on this slide, it's a very simple definition. A triangle involves 3 or more people when only 2 people should be involved. But this second part is something more unique. When there is a triangle, it reduces the possibility of intimacy for all involved. So let's look at the story there that comes under that in the slide. We have a young lady by the name of Joni, and she has a mother, Debbie, and a father, John. Joni is angry with her father, John, so she talks to her mom, Debbie, about the situation. Debbie tries to resolve this issue for Joni by talking to her husband, and Debbie and John end up fighting over it. So that's a typical triangle, is when there's conflict between 2 people, but they're not talking. The best thing would be for Joni to talk with her father, but because she's afraid or isn't used to doing that, or her father may not listen, we don't know what kind of patterns are set up, she goes to mother. Have you ever heard this or seen this or experienced this?
Well, you know, kids are so little, they don't know who to go to. They don't know how to talk out their issues.
Well, Joni, it looks like Joni
was
is young, she's in her 20s.
a young adult,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, she's in her 20s. So this is a long time, long-term pattern. But that's what a triangle is the person who feels conflict can't go, like let's say I feel conflict with you, Dilys. The best thing would be for me to go to you.
Absolutely.
But instead, I go to Barbara and I say, you know, I'm very frustrated at Dilys. Now, of course, I go in the name of you helping me or praying for me.
Yes, pray. Let's pray for Dilys.
Yes, let's pray about this.
Yes.
And in the meantime, I would say, you know, I think we do need to pray for Dilys because you know what I've noticed?
Let me tell your story.
And then pretty soon, Dilys is the odd person out.
And left out.
And neither one of us can be close with her, and we're probably close only because we're talking about you.
me. Now, the interesting thing is...
That's... Sorry.
No, no.
But isn't... I mean, did you hear what she just said?
Yes, I did. I was just going to piggyback on that.
I did... Oh, go ahead.
So Dilys.
No, I was going to say... the relationship becomes closer because of the lack of relationship with me. And then the other piece of it is, at some point, I'm going to figure out something's going on.
Sure.
You know, and feel like the odd man out, feeling left out because of the intimacy that's being created between the 2 of you, though there are 3 of us in the relationship, which is, I think, what's happening with Sam, Helga, and Mom. You know, Helga, there is no intimacy. Because Mom is always showing up, it's playing around and messing around with the intimacy between Sam and Helga, because they're arguing about the fact that your mother's here every night with food, you know. And then she has no relationship with the mother. Sam's relationship with the mother is also not going to be the way it was before, because how do you tell your mother, Mom, really? Please don't come over again.
Oh, let's do it.
Oh, Mom.
I'm being
You be
mother?
Mom. Yes, I'll be Sam. Mom.
Oh, hi there. I'm here with my supper again. I've got some real special little treats that I've made for you. I know you're going to love this.
Mom.
Yes.
I love you. But you
Well, I know that.
But you can't keep coming over every evening with cooked food.
What?
You can't keep coming over every evening with dinner. Mom, please don't cry.
I don't know what you're saying. What is she saying? What is she saying to me? I've never seen such a disrespectful daughter-in-law.
You're doing that very well.
That's probably what would happen, too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But now you said something very interesting, Dilly. Can we talk about?
Yes.
You said you can't. I want to tell you, my first thought was, oh, yes, I can.
Exactly. I was wondering what might happen if you were to add, we would love to have you one night a week.
Yes.
And you may not come every night of the week.
And would you call first before you
when
came
you do
over?
come.
When you do come.
Now let's back up just a little. I'm feeling empathetic for the in-law. She may not even know. So let's give her the benefit of the doubt. This is her first thought that she might be stepping on someone's feet. Now, how would you start there?
It probably is, Carla, because do you know in the vignette that I read, it said when this happens and Helga gets mad, he says to his mom, "Don't worry about it."
See, interesting.
So he's actually making it
worse.
Continue.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so then the first thing might be that, I'm getting all the names mixed up, Helga and Sam need to sit down and decide what's reasonable for both.
For both of them.
So let's say what's reasonable for both is that she come over what do you think?
I'd say once a week.
One night a week. All right, now they're ready to sit down with Mom. Who should do that, Sam or Helga?
Both.
Because if Helga speaks, mother might do the very same thing.
But okay, what would help with the feeling of being ganged up on?
I don't know.
I have empathy
think-
for this woman.
I agree, but I think that it's all in the way it's languaged. I think if it's
Okay.
gentle and you say, I have this great appreciation for you, and we love you, and here's the limit. I think you have to balance the two together. And don't we do that as parents, you know? Junior's going to go to mom, and if mom says no, Junior will go to dad. And so both parents have to be a united front, and they say very firmly, and sometimes not as kindly, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And we're hoping that mom will hear the love that is coming across and just doesn't hear, we don't want you here.
Okay, so let's back up just a little bit and say that Sam and Helga don't agree. Helga wants her once a week, and Sam says, oh, come on. You know, she's bringing us supper. Why make
She
a big
has a
deal
bad
about
marriage.
it? Yeah,
She
she
needs
doesn't
to
have
be
anybody.
Well, immediately what comes to mind is that they need to create a boundary, that they have their a new family unit that's starting. You know, isn't the instruction to leave and cleave? You know, you start a new family.
Yes.
That's biblical
Yes.
instruction, that a husband shall take a wife and they should leave. Outside of not knowing all the details of the cultural expectation for this particular family, there's a sense that, you know, Sam, we are creating our own family. We want to create our own family traditions, you know. And while we may love your mom being here, we really do need to set a limit on it. Hopefully she won't say she can't ever come over. She'd at least be willing to say at least once a month. And I think Sam should be open to pleasing his wife, you know, at least, without feeling like he's pleasing his wife but hurting his mother, because then
I want to push it just a bit.
push.
Where, let's say Helga says, I just don't want her over here.
Well, she might have gotten so frustrated.
She's so
she feels that
frustrated,
way.
which happens.
Yeah, it
She's so
does.
frustrated, she's had her limit.
See, this is where I think, therapists are trained to be a third party in a triangle, but it's a therapeutic triangle, and it's not one that you pit people against each other, and I think that's the perfect time to go see a therapist. How's that for an answer?
Well,
But
you just
I
got
really-
an easy way out.
But I really do, and there's also some really fine books that talk about boundaries and what's appropriate, because maybe they've talked about this, and the talking about it makes them angrier, both of them.
Absolutely.
And maybe they need to have a third party
And
who will be
appropriate.
neutral.
Absolutely. And who can hear all sides of the story.
And who will also help them work out the boundary
Yes.
between themselves.
Yes.
And what I was thinking is there are other ways. Helga's not just mad that her mother-in-law is coming every night. She's mad that she's coming and cooking. And so what she could say is, all right, if you want her to come, you know, let's try this next week that she comes, but I do the cooking. So that
that's a
there's
great way to do it.
that they're not just cutting her off to one night a week after every night cooking. They're cutting her down.
Now let me
You're
be
weaning
devil's
her off.
advocate.
Okay, be devil's advocate.
Okay. Helga, I noticed that these potatoes aren't completely cooked.
Oh, I see where you're
Trouble.
going.
Okay. That is trouble.
Okay.
You know, I would never serve broccoli and spinach on the same plate.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll be
Okay,
Helga,
please.
and I'll say, I know you wouldn't, Mom, and I appreciate it so much that you're willing to put up with the way I cook.
Well, I don't know how I can put up with it, but I don't know how he puts up with it.
Sam?
I don't even, I'm stuck because I would have just been done with my broccoli. Sam, she can't come back. It's like we're done.
It's hard, isn't it?
It is hard.
It's really hard to feel that push.
Well, I think actually in that moment it wasn't hard because I'm expecting her to push back. You know, when you set a boundary for someone, they're always going to push.
Absolutely.
So I think one ought to expect that. So I expect you to not like the broccoli or to complain about it being over salted.
So you can just pass it off
Oh yeah.
and not take issue with it.
Now, if it happens in a different arena, then I'm stuck. You know, if she
Yes.
says something like my hair looks bad, I must have not been able to freshen up, then I'm ready to choke her. Then she's got my goat.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
But knowing your limits is important, you know, knowing what gets you.
That's a tough one.
It definitely
That's
is.
a tough and a very common one,
Absolutely.
unfortunately.
One of the things that I think are interesting with triangles is when you include someone from the outside of the group in, I've found to work is to be able to try to hear and say, well, have you told the other person? It's important that you go and let them know how you're
Now,
feeling.
Let's do that one, because that one, it happens a lot for people and it feels weird. So if I want to talk about Barbara, sorry Barbara, you're on the outs now. If I wanted to talk about Barbara and I come to you and I say, you won't believe what Barbara did. When you say, well, have you talked with her about it? I feel like I've been let down somehow. How do you help the people around you know that you're just not going to listen to that kind of thing anymore without hurting them? Or do you say hurt them? And
I haven't
done with it?
learned how to do it, honestly, without hurting them. I think I've been burned enough times now to be able to say, you know, I hear what you're saying. I understand how you're feeling, Carla. I think, though, that Barbara really needs to be brought in on this. You need to tell her how you're feeling, because I don't think she knows. I think if Barbara knew that this is how you're feeling about this, she'd change the way that she spoke to you or the way she's acted towards you. I mean, what do you really know? If you know Barbara's character, is this her character? No. You know, and that's the way that I usually try to say it. Does that sound characteristics of her? Maybe something was going on. Why don't you go speak to her?
That feels good to hear.
You know,
just the way you're saying
I
it.
like how you're framing that. Another thing you can do is to say, you know, it's not helpful for me to hear something private about her, and I'll be really glad, and I'm sure you will be when you figure out how to sort that out. That way you're expressing some empathy, and you're not getting in the middle of it and trying to fix it.
It's not helpful for me.
It's not helpful
to
for
hear
me
it.
to hear that,
Yeah.
or I can't guarantee I'm going to keep a secret about that.
Now, the other...
Oh, now I've done that.
Yeah,
I like
the very
that
frank way is you might want to go tell Barbara, because if I see Barbara, I'm going to tell Barbara. And I found that when you do that, people immediately rethink what it is. If it's just a gripe, you know, or do you genuinely want to rectify the relationship or repair the damage that's done or share what's going on?
And they learn not to try to keep hooking you in.
Yes.
Because that is really uncomfortable to keep getting hooked in.
Well, what I say is, don't tell me a secret, because I'll forget that it's a secret.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of people do this in the name of, like we said earlier, prayer. Like I want to get your feedback. I want to tell you something just to get your feedback. I don't want to be talking about anybody. They preface it with all these things.
That's right.
Oh, at the door of the church, they're sharing. We're going to share.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Which is code for gossip.
Code for gossip. The really sad thing is that you can't unhear what you've heard.
That's right.
You know, it affects how you view someone, even if you know it's not correct.
Absolutely.
That's what's hard. Very difficult.
And I think for someone who's being drawn into triangles on a regular basis, one of the things you do need to do is to be able to put up that boundary and say, you know what, I can't hear that. Because there's work that you're going to have to do now to try to unhear.
Yeah.
You know, there's work that's required of me to not hold on to those memories. And that's one of the reasons why when there's a Jamaican saying that, I guess, I don't know if I can say it, but, you know, a cat should not get involved in a fight between two, like a chicken and a rooster, you know, because you get involved, you're going to get hurt. That third person gets in.
Oh, yeah.
And not only that, you're still nursing your wounds. They'll go off and be friends. They have rectified their situation.
That is so true.
And you're stuck there going, oh my gosh, I just got beat up.
That's
trying
right.
to help, and they're moving on with life.
They're fine.
They're fine.
Oh, I've made a mistake there where, just to use it here, if I knew you were upset at each other, I'll go to this person and say, you know, if you'll just, and I'm the one caught in the middle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's a very painful place
So
to
don't
be.
take it on. I think that's the big issue. Don't take on the issues of somebody else. However, when you have a situation with two parents that aren't getting along, suddenly sometimes a child will start acting out, and children intuitively know sometimes if they act out or if they have some kind of difficulty, the parents come together so that they can focus the attention on the child. But what the difficulty is that the parents' relationship is only as good as long as the child is having difficulty.
Right.
Well, that's the interesting thing about the scenario I mentioned earlier with Joni and her father and her mother, is that Joni's relationship with her mother is in some ways dependent on not being close to Dad, because Dad gets shut out. and Joni and her mother talk, and okay, I'll talk with Dad, I'll get it figured out. And so they have this kind of twittering girlfriend relationship, and Dad is left out in the cold.
Well, in the situation with Helga and Sam, I think if they were to put some pressure in the right direction and set some limits with the mom, that probably eventually she would have to face that relationship she has and do something about it. But now it's like an escape valve.
Absolutely.
She can just kind of do this instead, which feels good, but it's not the best for anybody.
Doesn't solve anything.
Well, we have some email questions.
Mhm.
You ready? The first question. It is difficult for me to talk with my, we just talked about this. It is difficult for me to talk with my father, so I talk with my mother, and she deals with him. Is this wrong to do? It is the only way I can communicate with my father.
Oh, I've had people tell me that before.
Well, I think we agree that it is wrong to do, isn't it?
It's not healthy.
It is.
I wouldn't say
you wouldn't
wrong.
use wrong? Okay.
I wouldn't wrong, it's just not healthy.
I wouldn't, yeah.
But you know, it's
sad.
tough, though, for a young girl to talk with her father when she's not used to doing it.
Well, how is she going to learn to talk
How
to
is she
men?
going to learn to talk
That's
to
right.
men?
There you
That's
go.
right. So what would you tell her to do?
I would say to talk to her mom about the difficulty she's feeling and then see how they can work together as a family to work that out. I think mom has a part to play in helping dad see, listen, you need to develop a relationship with our daughter.
Really? Maybe that's just a triangle, though.
It
Isn't
is. It is a triangle. Yet a dyad relationship between just two people works, but when you have another person that's on the outside, they can actually help enhance the relationship when all three are there. Right now, the intimacy is just between the mom and the daughter. There's no intimacy between her and her dad. I think the mom right now, the role she's playing is, I'm going to go talk to dad on your behalf, not saying, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm talking to dad and saying to dad, look, you need to go in and talk to her as well. It seems like she's just the go-between as opposed to saying, Dad, listen, while I'm talking to you about this, I'd like you to go now and start creating ways to develop that relationship with her.
I would agree with that because a lot of kids don't know who else to go to. And so as long as they don't side against the dad,
Yes.
and the urgency is to get them talking, I think that probably would work. But only by being really conscious of, aligning in the family that way.
I agree, but I'd say to the young lady, talk to your dad. Do whatever it takes. Call him up. Talk about the weather. Talk about politics. Talk about his garden. Do whatever it takes to talk just with you and him. Okay, 2. My wife talks with her friends about struggles in our marriage. I'm glad she has friends she can talk with, but is this triangling? That's an
Yes.
Well, I'd want to keep the waves.
In a word, yes.
I'd want to keep the waves to a minimum in my marriage if I knew it was going to be broadcast.
Absolutely.
Well, apparently he's okay with it. He says, I'm glad she has friends she can talk with.
Well, he's probably
but is this
fine.
triangling?
He's probably fine with it because she'd be talking to him if she wasn't talking to her friends about it.
Yes,
So
she
you're
would.
saying he shouldn't be fine with it?
He should not be fine, but I think the way it's set up, the
works.
friends are what's stabilizing the marriage. And they really need to come to terms with whatever it is that's bothering her.
That's right.
Even if it's not bothering him, it's bothering the relationship.
Yes. And, that's more people in their marriage. That's people that they have now invited. She's now giving them permission to speak about her marriage and speak into her marriage. Whether or not they speak to the husband or not, it's just they're people. That's
So
like,
are you all suggesting that any struggles within a marriage ought to be kept within the marriage? Except for counseling or something like that, but
Well, it says friends, and so it gives me the idea that she's probably just talking to random people about this without.
well, he says she talks with her friends. It sounds like she's got some friends. I don't know.
Well, on the rare occasion that I've ever said anything to anyone about my marriage, usually that person will say, I just really look forward to you getting that taken care of, or that sounds really hard, have you tried this?
Yes.
And so, but they don't get so invested that every time they see me, it's like, did you talk to him? Did you?
Exactly.
Because then it
exactly.
takes on a life of its own, and it becomes the problem of my friend, and my friend
Absolutely.
can't be friends with my husband.
That's right.
So,
That's why I felt mixed about this, because I have appreciated it so much, and you all as my friends know this. where I might say something and one of you will say, oh, I know, that's happened to me. And it normalizes it.
Yes.
And then I'm thinking, well, you know what? This happens to everybody.
Yes.
Why am I so up in arms about it? That's different
Right, yes.
than my husband, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's different. And I'm trying, as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, well, how do you know that difference? And how do you, but I think you said it right there, maybe, that the other person doesn't become invested in it.
Right.
Right. And they're also able to kind of turn the mirror to you.
Yeah.
And say, okay, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Now look at what you're saying in the greater context of what's going on, and send you back. Just as we talked about with the young lady, go talk to your husband.
Send you back and stay confidential.
That's right.
If they talk to somebody else and say, you wouldn't believe what trouble Carla's having.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, let's go to the next one. I don't understand how triangles are hurtful. When I talk to a friend about an issue that I have with another person, oh, this fits. That friend helps me work through it and helps me look at it from a variety of angles. This seems helpful, not hurtful. Otherwise, I say things that I don't mean.
Yeah, I think we just addressed that.
We just addressed that.
It's really hard to know, though, whether you're creating a triangle, or especially if you're just really upset about something and you feel like you need to have someone hear you out. And, you know, am I even thinking rationally? Does this even make sense? I just want to, I'm so mad I could just fly to the moon, you know. And to have that person who is trustworthy, I would imagine they're trustworthy and confidential, to be able to say, well, think about this. Have you thought about this or this or this?
You know, one of the things we talked about earlier, which we haven't touched on, is that triangles can actually lead people to become clinically depressed or have other, develop other sicknesses or issues. You know, let's kind of touch on that for a couple of seconds.
Well, I think they make you depressed because the problem isn't resolving. That's the crazy thing about triangles. If I'm mad here and I'm talking to you, it feels better somehow, but it isn't better. And that's the horrible thing is if then you talk about Barbara and all this stuff is happening all over here, Barbara may never know who started it, but she knows that someone out there did.
Well, you know, today we've talked about triangle relationships and how they do affect the intimacy of the individuals that are in that relationship. We've also talked about the fact that all triangles aren't bad. You know, sometimes you need to get the outside help of someone else, a therapist, a pastor, a counselor. So we're hoping that from our conversation today that you will understand the importance of being in relationships, but also getting the help if you need it.